All right, let's talk about something every creative person knows all too well. That feeling when you've just hit a wall, the dreaded creative block. Today, we're going to look at it through the eyes of a master potter who has this amazing perspective that, sometimes the clay and the mind just need to rest.
You know that feeling, right? You sit down, you're ready to get to work, you're ready to make something cool, but nothing. It's just quiet. The energy, that little spark that usually gets you going, it feels like it's just packed up and left. And it's not about skill, you haven't lost your touch. It's just that the well feels completely, totally dry.
I love this metaphor. Picture a potter at their wheel. Everything's set up perfectly. The tools, the clay, the whole studio. But the actual spark, the idea of what to shape, just isn't there. It's this super frustrating moment where all the machinery is working, but the artist isn't. And this quote, this really gets to the heart of it all. This quiet time isn't you failing. It's not a permanent shutdown. It's actually a necessary pause. It's part of the process, just like how a piece of clay has to firm up a bit before you can do the detailed work.
Okay, so let's dive into what this creative silence actually feels like. What is really happening in our heads when it seems like that switch just gets flipped?
Yeah, it's so much more than just being a little tired or busy. It's this deep, fundamental shift where the desire to create just vanishes. Your studio starts to feel like a stranger's room, your tools look unfamiliar. There's no buzz, no new ideas percolating. The part of your brain that's usually just humming with possibilities goes completely silent.
Now here's where things get really interesting. What if we stopped calling it a block? What if we reframed the whole problem? Instead of some huge, scary wall, what if we started thinking about it as just exhaustion?
And bam, there it is. Calling it creative fatigue honestly changes everything. It's not that your ideas are gone for good, it's just that your mind is wiped out from the constant work of creating, problem solving, and making 1,000 tiny decisions. It's a temporary state, not a life sentence. This is basically your brain's self-defense mechanism kicking in. It's sending up a flare saying, hey, you gotta stop pushing. Because if you keep trying to mess with clay that's too wet and overworked, what happens? It collapses. Your mind is exactly the same. Just recognizing that signal is the first massive step toward getting back on track.
So what do you actually do? Well, there are two main paths you can take. First, there's what's called the full stop reset. This is the deep, patient approach. The master's move, really. Then there's the inspiration technique. Think of this one as the emergency spark you use when a deadline is staring you down and you just can't afford to wait.
Let's start with that first one, the big one, the full stop reset. This is for when you've got the time and space to really, truly let your creative well fill back up. Okay, so the steps sound simple, but they are not easy. Step 1, you have to completely step away. Don't plan, don't sketch, just go live your life, cook a meal, take a walk. Step 2 is all about mindset. You have to trust that this downtime is actually productive. And step 3, this one requires patience. You wait until you feel that real, genuine pull to make something again before you even think about going back to it.
And that quote just nails it, doesn't it? This isn't a puzzle you can solve by thinking harder. You can't force an idea to show up. It's all about surrender. It's about giving your mind the deep, unstructured rest that it is begging you for.
But what if you have a deadline breathing down your neck? What if just stopping completely is not an option? Well, that's where our second strategy comes in, the inspiration technique.
Oh, I just love this quote. It perfectly sums up the whole idea. If your own creative well is empty, the worst thing you can do is keep digging and trying to force something out. Instead, you gotta go find an external source of energy. You go find a river. So, the steps here are much more active. First, go surround yourself with other people's creativity. Hit up a museum, a gallery, a concert, whatever. Second, connect with other makers. Just hearing the excitement in another artist's voice can be so contagious. And third, and this is important, don't rush right back to your desk. Let those borrowed sparks just sit with you for a bit and see if they can light something new. And let's be super clear about the goal here. You're not going to a gallery to find an idea to steal. That's not the point. The point is to remind your brain what creative energy feels like. You're trying to reconnect to that feeling of aliveness that good art gives you, hoping it'll jumpstart your own engine.
Now, holding up both of these techniques is something even more important. It's a fundamental shift in how you think about creative blocks in the first place. This isn't really about tactics, it's about your whole philosophy.
Honestly, if you only take one thing away from all of this, let it be this.
Your creative block is not an enemy you have to fight and defeat. It's a messenger. And the message is pretty simple. I'm exhausted. I need to rest. The moment you start seeing it as a signal instead of a failure, everything changes. You stop fighting it and you start healing.
So it all comes down to these 3 big shifts in your thinking. First, you have to respect the pause and see it as a totally valid part of the process. Second, you have to drop the guilt. That feeling that you're not being productive, get rid of it. And third, you start to learn your own unique creative rhythm, that natural ebb and flow of your own energy.
And this is exactly why dropping the guilt is so critical. Trying to push through creative exhaustion doesn't lead to your best work. It leads to sloppy work. It leads to mistakes, cracks in the final pot. So rest isn't lazy. Rest is quality control. Ultimately, it's about treating your creativity with a bit of respect. Like any good relationship, it needs care. It needs space to breathe. And sometimes, the absolute best thing you can do for your creative self is to just leave it alone for a little while.
And what if we saw these quiet times not as an absence of something, but as a different kind of creativity? Maybe this is where the next big ideas are being formed, quietly, in the background. You just can't hear them yet because right now, they're only whispers. So let's bring it all together. When your mind feels like that stubborn, unmoving lump of clay on the wheel, the answer isn't to force it or to fight it. The answer is to listen to it. That silence isn't a punishment, it's preparation.
And that's really the final thought. In a world that is obsessed with constant production and output, maybe the most profound creative act of all is learning how to wait with patience and with trust, knowing that the spark will come back when it's good and ready.